What is good, Tesla family? It's Ray J back with another video. And in this one, I want to break down what's going on with Tesla, SPY, Nvda, the QQQ, and a couple of other tickers. I'm going to break down why on earth tomorrow is going to be a very important day as we have CPI data being released an hour before the market opens. I'm going to be talking about how this could end up affecting Tesla and a couple of other tickers. I'm also going to be breaking down some important news affecting Tesla in the markets and what's going on with the data affecting Tesla. But before I do anything like this, before I get into any more details, let me just mention a couple of things. I am personally not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out the Moomoo link, which is down below and in the description. If you sign up for Moomoo, the link down below, and deposit $100 into the account, you are guaranteed up to 5 free stocks. The offer ends in just 4 days, so check it out before they run out. Anyways, let's break down what's going on with Tesla and the market. So we had a very, very interesting day for Tesla and the overall market because we started off with a little pop on Tesla. I gave you guys a warning about this pop and drop, and that's what happened for the majority of the day. Tesla also closed kind of red after gapping up and starting off kind of green. So we got this pop and drop on Tesla, and then at the end of the day, the market tried to bounce after we got the FOMC minutes, which is quite ironic considering that most Fed members were quite hawkish overall. They were saying that there should be another rate hike coming, and they may have to maintain restrictive policy for longer than expected. So the Fed was being a bit more on the hawkish side. But the thing about this data is that the Fed didn't really surprise the markets. There was nothing new from what was said before, and the market ended up pumping because it loves certainty. And sometimes the market could do very, very irrational, sometimes very ironic things. And the best thing to do is just accept it and just let the market be because we have to react based off that. So, anyways, what's going on with tomorrow? Why is tomorrow going to be a very important day? Well, we have CPI data coming out. This chart right here is CPI and core CPI. And as you guys can see, there's been a slight increase in all items CPI ever since we started to see some headlines about crude oil going up due to production cuts from Saudi Arabia, and not to mention Russia and other countries like that. And then for all items without food and energy, core has been on a slight decline. So you want to see this trend continue on core. That is going to be very important for the markets. So how are the numbers looking at the expectations? Here's my answer. The numbers are coming out tomorrow, 1 hour before the market opens at 8:30 a.m. Eastern time. Core inflation month over month should be around 0.3%. That is what the consensus and forecast are. If it's 0.4% or higher, that is going to be bearish for the markets. If it's 0.3% or lower, that's going to be bullish. So watch that very carefully for core CPI month over month. For core CPI year over year, and once again, that's CPI without food and energy. For core, we want this to be 4.1% or lower tomorrow for the bulls to have the edge. If it's 4.2% or higher, that's going to likely be in favor of the bears, and we could see some downside in the markets if that's the case. For inflation month over month, we want it to be 0.3 to 0.4%. If it's higher than 0.4%, so like 0.5% or more, that's going to be bearish for the markets. If it's 0.4% or lower, that could be like bullish or okay for the markets too. And finally, for all items CPI, we want this to be year over year at 3.7% or less. If it's hotter than that at 3.8% or more, that's going to be bearish. So just to clarify, I think year over year tend to be two of the most important figures. If all items CPI year over year is 3.8% or higher, that's bearish. And then 4.2% or higher for core is going to be more bearish too. If it's below those numbers, that could become more bullish or okay for the markets. So watch these levels very, very carefully. At the same time, initial jobless claims is coming out. We want this to be 208,000. We will see what that causes as well, but it's not as significant as CPI. Later on, we have more data coming out. We have Boston giving a speech at the end of the day. Then we also have the WASDE report as well. I will talk more about that later on, but for now, let's focus on CPI. Just for some additional insights, Delta has its earnings tomorrow alongside Domino's Pizza. Then we also have on Friday lots of big bank earnings from JP Morgan Chase, Citi, BlackRock, Wells Fargo, and the list goes on for Friday. Some more news came out that China plans on spending $137 billion to boost its infrastructure and economy. That is good news for them and many Chinese tickers, and we will see if this continues to help Chinese tickers tomorrow, but as of right now, that may not be the case. Tesla announced that the 4680 battery cell production has hit a breakthrough. This is great news for them as at Giga Texas, they produced their 20 millionth battery cell at the factory. Great news for them, in my opinion. A very, very big milestone, just shows how incredible Tesla's production team has been. And I expect to see more and more of these battery cells as years go on. Eventually, we're going to be seeing 50 million, then 100 million as years progress. So great news for Tesla as volume is continuing to go up. And the automaker has claimed that it has the potential to reduce the battery cost by over 50% with the new design. We will see about that when it comes to like mass producing it, and things like that. But for now, it's not bad. We will see how the future holds. Moving forward, when it comes to how Tesla's moving, I just wanted to mention that the volume was about 103 million. It's a little bit less volume than usual, less buying pressure. And finally, we're starting to see a little bit more of a change in the way sentiment is looking. So we're getting neutral ratings from UBS, Wells Fargo given equal weight rating. This is different from like the overweight ratings we were getting before. So it's a slight change from analysts. Price price ratio is flat as Tesla's performing very similar to the market. And the shorting on Tesla dropped just a little bit a couple of days ago. So it is dropping a bit. We're not seeing as much shorting on Tesla, which is a decent sign for the bulls. But now the question is, how will Tesla move going forward? Honestly, guys, I cannot make any promises as it depends on CPI. And there's a reason why people call it the CP lie, as the numbers could be very manipulated. So I can't truly predict it, but what I can tell you is that we have to watch these levels very carefully and these current formations. Tesla has this channel, has been going back and forth, respecting an uptrend. If we're bearish tomorrow, we have to break this channel. If it breaks below 260, that's going to be a bearish signal for tomorrow. Tesla could break this channel and turn bearish and start sinking towards 255. If we're bullish, if we get a nice bounce, Tesla could be pushing up towards 268. If that breaks, we could see Tesla approach this 272 resistance, which is where we have this imbalance. That's the bullish case. As of right now, we are technically on an uptrend. The market structure has not changed, so there's a good chance Tesla tries to bounce from a technical standpoint, but I can't promise anything as it depends on CPI, and that's going to be a much bigger factor than just technical analysis. So we will see what happens, guys. I'm not promising anything. We'll have to wait and see. That's going to be key, but just know Tesla has been making higher highs and higher lows for the time being. To add on to this, if you look at SPY, it's continuing to make higher highs and higher lows, except today it was trying to test the high, didn't really break it yet. So now this like rising wedge ended up developing into like more of a channel. So we'll see if this holds or not. If you're bearish, watch it break 435 tomorrow if CPI is hot. If that's the case, it's going to come down to 432 again, to potentially 430. If we're bullish, you want to see it break 438 to fill the gap at 438.5. That's where we have some tough resistance at 438.5. If that breaks, 440 is on the table. So watch these levels very carefully tomorrow. They're going to be very key. For the QQQ, this is also looking like it's, instead of like forming this, rising wedge like pattern, it still sort of has this, but it's not as clean as before. If we're bearish, you want to see it not just break below 370, but you want to see it break below 368 after CPI comes out to turn more bearish, for it to come down to the mid 360s. If you're bullish, you want to see it break above 372.6, which was the previous support becoming resistance. If it breaks that 374 to 375 is a real possibility, but we need to see it hold 372.5 to 372.65. I'm in the middle. It's making higher highs and higher lows, technically looking a bit more bullish, but just to be safe, we have to see if there's a change in market structure after CPI, because everything could still change, guys. I can't promise anything. This could be a big market changing event, so we'll have to wait and see what happens with CPI. If we're bullish, now you could argue that we still have like this rising wedge like pattern on Nvda. If we're bullish on Nvda, you want to see it break and hold above 470. If it does so, we could see this thing pushing for 474, which is where we had historical resistance. Right over here, which is where we had that wick. So 474 is on the table if we break above 470. If we end up projecting off this resistance and we break below 468, watch support at 465. And this is where we have this yellow trend line right here. If that breaks, we can see Nvidia start sinking back to 460, and below that we have like the mid 450s that could be tested. This trend line right here around the very low 450s. If we break below 460, that's going to be very key, and also 465. All right, so watch these levels. We'll see what happens tomorrow. And Apple is the most interesting of them all, in my opinion, because it's looking a little bit more bullish. It looks like it's trying to break out. Could this develop into a continuation of the rising wedge, or are we going to see a break to the downside? That I can't really promise. We have this gap up here around 182.5. If we break 180, watch for 182.5. If we reject and break below this trend line, we could be watching it come down to 177.5. So it all depends on CPI. I can't promise that, but we are looking a bit more bullish on Apple, so we'll have to wait and see. I'm not going to promise anything, though. Let's see what CPI causes. You have to be very open-minded during events like this. Now, I just wanted to very briefly go over just a couple of tickers super quickly, guys. So for the IWM on the 4-hour time frame, if you want to be bullish, you want to see this thing break above this resistance right here around this 178 area. If it breaks, watch for 180. If it breaks below 174.5, watch it come all the way down to 172.5. Anything can happen on CPI days, so nothing can truly be predicted with high certainty. For Microsoft, if we break above 333, we could be watching for 335, which is historical resistance. If we break below our 327 area, which is key support at the 20 EMA, this could sink towards 325. So watch that carefully. It all depends on CPI. Looking forward, we also have AMD. If you're bullish, you want to see it break 110 to push to 112. If you're bearish, you want to see it break below 107 to come down to 105. I'm in the middle. The structure is still looking a bit more like it's making higher highs and higher lows. So we will see if we could get confirmation tomorrow. As of right now, there's no confirmation. The VIX is doing the same thing. There's nothing to confirm this just yet, but it did close below the 200 EMA, which is a bearish signal. So this could start sinking in favor of the bulls a little bit more. So we will see about that. The dollar, however, is not really as decisive. It's just barely holding support at 105.5. We will see if this holds or not. We do have a slight bullish average just trying to develop, but it's very, very slight. Nothing too significant. So we'll just have to wait and see. For Google, if we continue to break 142.68, we could go to 145, which is where we have historical resistance. If it breaks below 141, watch it come down to 139. For Amazon, if you're bullish, you want to see this thing break out towards this gap. I saw this like unfilled gap on it somewhere. I think it's on the daily chart. There should be a gap on Amazon. So yeah, it's up here from what I remember. If we have this double bottom formation, the full measured move looks a bit more bullish for 135. That's the bullish case. If you're bearish, you want to see it break below 130 to drop to 129, then 128.5. Meta has resistance, at 330. If we break that, watch for a push towards this next level at 335. If we're bearish on Meta, you want to see it break below 325. If that fails us, it's going to come down to 319. So Meta's looking a bit more bullish on the daily and the weekly. So the odds do favor upside for some tickers like Amazon Meta based off technicals alone, but nothing can be promised. Okay, don't solely depend on technicals on a day like CPI because anything could happen. We will wait and see what happens with these numbers. So just be prepared for this 1 hour before the market opens. All right, so hopefully this video was helpful. I thank every single one of you so much for listening. I appreciate every single one of you. Have a great day. I'll see you guys tomorrow morning to talk about CPI. And until then, take care. Take care of yourselves. Do whatever it is you have to do. And peace out.